Can you give Eubank a message? You haven't come to each other yet.
I'm not doing this. Chris, I salute you, mate, and you know, well done for winning the first fight. It takes two to tango. We both delivered. We both done what we needed to do, and I'm gonna iron you out second time round.
You know, I told him the other day, maybe it was yesterday or the day before. I said, man, once you get past this fight and you dominate this fight, they can't deny you fighting for a world title. You know, at 160, I believe he can.
Honestly, this guy has zero respect for anything, and I hope people can see through it. Some will, some won't. But if you can't see them, I mean, that's a lot of what happened up there was just wrong. So listen, we go to work and we're in to win the fight. It's going to be different.
Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. The rivalry reignites. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. collided once again, not in the ring this time, but live on Instagram. Words became weapons, and the silence between them carried more threat than any outburst could. The tension was thick. The history...
But in which ways can you be better, do you think?
Just more disciplined. It's a matter of sticking to the tactics and the game plan rather than me going in there and...
Undeniable. This wasn't casual trash talk. It was deeply personal. Benn's voice trembled not with fear, but with the weight of unfinished business. His calm delivery felt more dangerous than rage. Every word dripping with conviction. Every glance hinting at the hunger that...
But the fight, once that bell goes, I think will be even better than the first one because we know each other now. So we know the weaknesses, we know the strengths. It could be a whole new fight. Or it could be a war from round one again. So you guys are gonna have to wait and see.
Burned since their last clash. His eyes told the story of a man who's replayed that night 1,000 times, each memory sharpening his intent. He wasn't just coming to fight, he was coming to dismantle. Eubank Jr., in contrast, embodied composed precision. His tone wasn't arrogant, it was assured. Every syllable carried the quiet confidence.
Listen, I don't like Chris. I don't have to like him, but no one's out to hurt anybody here, you know. And it's a shame that he lives in that world of paranoia where he genuinely believes that anybody's out to get him because nobody really is. And it's for his toenail. I couldn't care less about his toenail. You know, like, bro, like I don't.
Of a tactician who has studied his rival inside and out. He spoke like a man preparing for war. Someone who knows the rhythm of combat and exactly how much pressure it takes to end a rivalry. There was no bluff, no ego, just control. But Benn refused to yield to the psychological warfare. His frustration spilled through the screen, firing verbal jabs meant to...
For me to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Eubank. Is there any way you can see that Conor Benn beats your guy?
No, I can't, for the simple fact that it's hard to beat the guy that already didn't beat you. I mean, I can see that Chris is beating him at everything. The press conference, the stare downs, the fight. To me, he got his number, you know? And I think he's gonna be in a better position coming into this next fight because Chris knows what to expect.
Pierce Eubank's calm exterior. He accused Eubank of paranoia, of being trapped in his own world. You're not ready. Benn snapped, his voice fading from composure into defiance. Yet beneath that fire, emotion flickered dangerously. And in boxing, emotion can be both a weapon and a weakness.
What does it do to Conor Benn's career trajectory if he does lose again?
Look, I mean, you never want back-to-back defeats. Obviously, we know the future is at 147. We've got Lewis Crocker here. You know, there's a shot at the world title. But losing is a disaster for Conor. Yeah, I can dress it up to you and say, it's up at middleweight, it doesn't really matter, now we go. But that's not what Conor Benn's about. You see a different Conor Benn in there today because all he's focused on is the performance and the fight and getting the...
Some believe Benn's irritation might play straight into Eubank's hands, into that steady surgical approach perfected over years. That's where Brian Beaumake McIntyre, Eubank's trainer, stepped in with cold analysis. Breaking down the dynamic, he made it clear that from the mind games to the press conferences, Eubank...
Yeah, like I say, the fight wasn't a letdown because it was a good fight. But as an event, you won't get a better event than that. And they'll have to go some, actually, to surpass that or even equal that. Let's just hope they get the same turnout in terms of the numbers, people going through the live gate and watching that fight, because it was a great event. There's no ifs, buts or maybes. You won't get world title fights that actually are a better...
Eubank was simply ahead. Experience decides fights like this, Eubank said, and Chris has it in every department. His confidence wasn't bluster, it was the voice of a man who's seen countless wars and knows when the smarter fighter holds the edge. From the promoter's chair, Eddie
He ain't coming back down to 160, so it's got a very short lifespan, this rematch. It's got to be done, the sooner the better.
Hearn laid out the stakes with brutal honesty. Another loss, he warned, and it could derail Conor Benn's entire career. There would be no excuses. No talk of weight classes or distractions. This fight for Benn wasn't just competition, it was survival. Hearn's tone carried the weight of expectation pressing heavily on Benn's shoulders. He wasn't just fighting Eubank Jr., he was fighting public doubt, the ghosts of his past and the fear of becoming a what-if story. Former world champion Duke McKenzie reminded fans just how electric their first encounter had been. It had everything, he said. Drama, chaos, brilliance.
We don't want the fight going 12 rounds. So that means we have to, the best chance of that is to employ a different strategy, have different tactics, have a different mindset on what it is we need to do with Conor Benn in that ring. That's why we brought Eubank.
But he also warned the bigger the stage, the heavier the expectation. This time, the stakes are tripled. Pride, reputation, and legacy are all on the line. Tony Bellew, ever the straight talker, pointed out that timing could be Benn's only advantage. If the rematch happens soon, it favors Benn, he said. He's younger, quicker to recover. Yet even Bellew couldn't dismiss Eubank's composure under fire. Time and again, when others have crumbled, Eubank has thrived. Now with his new partnership under Eubank McIntyre, Eubank has peeled back the curtain on his transformation. This rematch isn't a...
Do you think Conor Benn will be better in the second fight?
Yes,
Does that mean that you think that by him being better and there's no more left from Chris Eubank, that Conor Benn's able to bridge the gap, get an outcome in his second fight?
Without a doubt.
You do?
He couldn't have done any more. If he could have knocked out Conor in that fight, he would have done. He just couldn't get rid of him. And Conor stuck it. So regardless of him being surprised that Conor stuck it out a lot more, he couldn't get...
About points, he said coolly. It's about domination. His approach is different, colder, more methodical. Bringing Eubank into his camp wasn't just a strategic move, it was a declaration of war. I'm not here for redemption, Eubank said. I'm here for closure. That single line revealed everything about his mindset. Calm, calculated, and deadly. Yet not everyone is convinced this evolution will be enough. Veteran analyst Johnny Nelson offered a measured counterpoint. Every fighter has that defining moment, he said. Maybe Chris has already had his. Still, Nelson praised Benn's resilience. His ability to absorb punishment and keep it.
So I think he'll get a lot more people wanting to tune into that fight, and obviously we're going to win the next fight. And but yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting Conor Benn ready to fight, and it's going to be historic.
Advancing. If Benn has truly improved, if his timing and control have sharpened, the gap could close faster than people think, he said. But Nelson's final warning cut through the hype. In boxing, one clean shot can flip the story. Meanwhile, inside Benn's camp, trainer Tony Sims exudes quiet belief. There's no theatrics, no noise, just conviction. This isn't about revenge, Sims said. It's about execution. He's seen something different in Benn's preparation, something refined, disciplined, and mature. To Sims, Benn is no longer fighting out of emotion but out of precision. So here they stand again. Two fighters bound by rivalry, pride, and history.
I don't think at this stage Eubank can do a lot more else. He'll try and do what he did, on fight night. It's whether he can go so well again. I don't think so. If the fight becomes as hard and if it's as the pace and ferocity of a first fight, I'd be very surprised and I'd be amazed if Eubank can do all that.
For Eubank, this is about closure. For Benn, it's about survival. The rematch isn't just a fight, it's the reckoning of everything that came before, because in this sport, when the lights go out and the crowd fades away, only one truth remains. Composure wins wars. Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Legacy on the line, precision. That's the word echoing through Conor Benn's camp. His team calls the fight historic, not as hype, but as certainty. Benn's tone carries the confidence of a strategist who's watched his fighter evolve into something sharper, calmer, and more dangerous. Around him, belief feels unshakable. They insist they've cracked the formula to finally tilt the balance. Whether it's conviction or clever psychology, Team Benn is marching toward the rematch with the quiet certainty of victory. Across the divide, trainer Dave Coldwell.
I think Eubank Jr., if he gets this win and there's a new lease of life maybe under Beaumac, 2026, maybe finally he could become a world champion. But he's got to get past Conor Benn first. And Conor Benn, not just hungry for revenge, he believes he can win this because of what happened first time round, because he went 12 rounds at middleweight, up in class, after a long layoff. Some people fancy Benn in this.
Sees things differently. Known for his honesty and realism, Coldwell offered a sobering take. The question isn't whether Chris can win, he said. It's whether his body can hold up. His words weren't disrespectful. They were measured. Time catches everyone. Reflexes fade. Recovery slows. He suggested the brutal pace of their first encounter may have taken more out of Eubank Jr. than many realize. Still, he refused to count him out. You can never rule out a man built on grit and self-belief. Coldwell said, Eubank's proven people wrong before, and he might just do it again. Then came Dave Allen, raising an often overlooked issue, the rehydration clause. For Allen, it wasn't just a technical concern, it was a moral one. These clauses can create dangerous imbalances, he warned. Fighters push their bodies too far to make weight, draining their sharpness, endurance, and punch resistance. For Eubank Jr., that's not theory, it's lived experience. He's fought under those conditions before, and the toll was visible. Allen's words struck a chord. In boxing, where pride and
Conor is a far better fighter than Chris Eubank Jr. is a boxer.
Technically, yeah.
And that's the problem that Chris Eubank Jr. is having. He's got this thing in his mind. He's a masterful boxer. No, you're not.
No.
I'm sorry, no, you're not.
Giants collide. Sometimes the scale is the most ruthless opponent of all. The rematch, then, isn't just a grudge fight. It's a test of fairness, of physiology, of endurance. Tony Bellew, never one to sugarcoat, added another layer to the narrative. The difference between them isn't heart, he said. It's craft. In Bellew's eyes, Benn is the cleaner technician, sharper fundamentals, crisper combinations. Eubank, by contrast, fights on instinct and will. But that, Bellew argued, is what makes him fascinating. They said I'm too old. They said I don't want it anymore. They said I'm washed up. Bellew recalled, echoing Eubank's mindset. They're going to find out. He even went so far as to call Eubank delusional for believing he's a masterful boxer, yet admitted that very delusion is his weapon. That self-belief, Bellew said, is what makes him dangerous. It's what's carried him through wars others couldn't survive. His critique wasn't just analysis, it was a challenge. Sometimes, he said, the man who refuses to break writes his own.
They said I'm too old, coach. They said I don't want it anymore. They said I'm washed up.
Hey, they're gonna find out.
Ending. On November 15th, the truth of that statement will be tested. Will Bellew's words expose Eubank's limits, or ignite the fire that makes him unstoppable? Trainer Brian Beaumac McIntyre echoed the confidence from Eubank's camp, his voice steady with decades of experience. Having trained world champions and dissected opponents like chess masters, McIntyre didn't just predict a win for Eubank, he predicted an easier one. Boxing is more mental than physical, he said. Once a fighter's broken, that scar never heals. In McIntyre's view, Eubank already occupies space in Benn's mind. Every time Benn visualizes fight night, he relives flashes of that last defeat, the frustration, the unanswered questions. That's control. McIntyre said, Chris knows when to attack and when to punish. Benn's aggression will betray him again. For McIntyre, this isn't arrogance. It's assessment. Benn's fire burns too hot, he explained. Eubank will extinguish it, with patience and precision.
And I think he's already had lawyers for his scenario, for his situation. They've represented him. I did read briefly earlier that he did have representation from a legal firm.
Inside the ring, another storm brews. Veteran journalist Gareth A. Davies drew attention to the distractions surrounding Benn. The noise hasn't gone away, he said. The legal issues, the headlines, it all lingers. For any fighter, that kind of weight can erode focus. Every training session, he argued, becomes more than conditioning. It becomes a battle against doubt. Benn insists the past is behind him, but Davies reminded fans that reputations once cracked take time to rebuild. Meanwhile, Eubank seems to thrive in chaos. Criticism doesn't weaken him, it fuels him. While Benn fights to clear his name, Eubank fights to cement his legacy. One man wrestles with external shadows, the other is singularly focused on immortality. The courtroom may be silent, Davies said, but the verdict will be delivered in punches. As November 15th draws closer, the atmosphere grows electric. Chris Eubank Jr. steps into the rematch rebuilt and redefined under Beaumac's system. His confidence sharpened like a blade. He's the veteran who's been humbled, who's rebuilt